Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion Plays The Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus. We're on a landmark 1-win streak. I don't care, you can give me any character in the game. I will crush it. I will destroy them. Laz? Azazel, you gotta continue to say the word, otherwise Google DeepMind will get on your butt. 6Q, KG, K8, 6V. Azazel. What is there to say about Azazel that hasn't already been said? I meant to bring this up in the last episode, and for those of you who watch all content I ever do, or have ever done, you'll have heard this in Subnautica, which we streamed on Sunday, but still, I need to tell you, I had a little Curb Your Enthusiasm moment happen this weekend. Kate and I went out to a nice restaurant for brunch. I don't want to get into a conversation about brunch necessarily, that's secondary to the issue at hand. You know, do you... Well, I don't know, you know what, maybe we will get into brunch temporarily, because I know that it's not for everybody. Here's why I like brunch. Anybody who says they enjoy brunching, I think that's a little bit, you know, too far. They probably just enjoy socially acceptable champagne-based orange juice cocktails at, you know, 10:30, 11 a.m. However, I like brunch, because sometimes when I get to a restaurant, I don't know what I want. Do I want a breakfast? Or do I want a lunch? Sometimes if we show up early enough, I want a breakfast. Sometimes if I show up late enough, I want a lunch. Anyway, we've eaten there before. It's very, very good. We sat down, you know, our server seated us. And then she came back a minute later and was like, "Excuse me, sir, can you remove your hats?" And you know, I'm not there to, you know, get in an argument about whether or not, you know, I should be able to wear my baseball hat in a restaurant to begin with. So I just said sure, and that was the end of it. That's the end of the bit, but it's not the end of the analysis. I ate the rest of the meal, you know, with no hat on. It wasn't like the hat said anything offensive. Dude, easy money. But I guess it's a classy place. They don't want you wearing your baseball hat. We ate there once before. I had worn whatever I wanted to wear, and apparently it wasn't a problem, but this time, I don't know, new rules, new regulations. I got no idea. But it's funny because Josh and I were talking about it on last Monday's NLSS. We were like, you know, what's your opinion on a restaurant that enforces a dress code? And we both got kind of the same opinion, which is that I don't mind if a restaurant has a dress code, but simultaneously, like, if I have the money to pay for your food, I guess I just see it as kind of like, you know, it must be nice for you. Well, I got a couple of different opinions on this. One is, why does it matter, I guess, is the first one. It's like, we're not living in the 1950s, you know, where if you're not wearing your Sunday best to church, people are going to get offended. Or maybe we are, and this place is the last bastion of that. In which case, I should probably stop going there. The other one is, it must be nice, you know, it's indicative of the quality of the restaurant, and I will say, it is indeed very good. But it's indicative of the quality of the restaurant that they can afford to, you know, select part of their consumer base out of the pool. You know, because I'm assuming that would mean that, you know, people who came in wearing, like, streetwear or stuff like that would also, I don't know, be frowned upon at the very least. I don't know if they'd be asked to remove their jacket or something like that. Hold on. Grab this. What do we got in here? I mean, we could probably afford to double up, but you gotta go Satanic Bible, and I think I'll just take a little extra damage, even at the cost of some rate of fire as well. Let's do it. Yeah, I'm good. I mean, we have Maggie's Faith, so we're, like, totally set. It's just strange to me, because I recognize the counter arguments, but I don't believe in their validity. You know, sometimes people say, like, well, isn't it nice just to dress up sometimes to go to a nice place? Yes, I don't do it very often, but, you know, sometimes it is nice to put on, you know, a suit or something like that and go out for a fancy dinner. But when I put on nice clothes and I go out to a fancy dinner, the last thing on my mind is like, you know, Kate's like, "What's wrong, honey?" And I'm like, I just wanted to enjoy this nice meal together, but this ruffian at the next table over is wearing a hat with the Canadian flag on it. I thought this was a classy establishment. You know what? I'm gonna talk this. I just don't understand why do you care? You know, it doesn't. Like, people are gonna be walking by, and they're gonna be like, honey, would you like to eat at this restaurant? It has amazing reviews. The smoked sturgeon salad looks incredible. And they're like, all right, Edgar. Wait a minute. There's a young hooligan in that restaurant. Wearing a baseball... baseball hat, of all things. Here I thought this was an establishment that catered culinarily to the non-nouveau riche. All of a sudden, somebody in there has the audacity to have their head covered? I don't understand. Now, I will say, none of these thoughts entered my mind. When I was younger, they probably would have, of like, oh, excuse me, this is actually a religious head covering, so I would prefer not to remove it, or, I'm sorry, I'm very sick, I would prefer not to remove it. Is that okay? At this point, I cared about the brunch more than I cared about my principles, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, because it's honest. Hold on. Ruka, would you like to leave? You want to leave or stay? We're having a staring contest. I think he wants to stay. Get in the box. What a strange cat. Magic Mush is huge, by the way. I guess I just don't get... The other argument is, like... You know... Well, I don't know if there is another argument. I just don't understand it. I thought kind of like the contract of a restaurant in the modern era is, you know, if you have the money to pay for the food, they serve you. And then, you know, everybody has an okay time. I didn't realize that it was all, you know, you had to meet a certain standard of conduct. Moreover, I didn't think that a baseball hat contradicted or contravened even that level of decorum. It's not like I went in with a shirt that said, like, you know, F you. It was just a hat from Roots with a maple leaf on it. Now that I'm thinking, I don't think this is the case. I do think, you know, it's a classy restaurant. They were probably like, no baseball hats. But I'm also wondering if maybe she didn't think it was a cannabis leaf or something like that. She was like, oh my god. He's wearing drug paraphernalia. I doubt it, but I don't know. I can't imagine being that hoity-toity, I guess. Well, you know what? I can. Because some of the stuff I talk about probably annoys people to the same degree. Like, you know, I will complain in these videos about some petty stuff. You know, like if somebody's whistling in public, that annoys me. Because I have my own music playing in my own head right now, and then I got some guy, you know, whistling like, gray skies are gonna clear up, put on a happy face. And I'm like, dude, I get it, you're in a good mood, that's fine. I don't want to harsh your vibe, but simultaneously, you stop whistling. Like, could you whistle into something that outputs it in the form of headphones or something like that? It's the same, like, you know, when I'm in bed and it's 1 a.m., and I hear noise coming from my neighbor's apartment, I'm not like, oh my god, they're listening to music. An unacceptable act. I'm more like, you know, hey, why are you listening to music so loudly at night? You know? Put a cork in it. Everybody, you ever hear of a silent disco? Get everybody their own headphones and then a wireless receiver and, you know, well, that... You know, I'm mostly being facetious, but you get the idea. It's not the fact that people are enjoying themselves, it's just the fact that their enjoyment is, unnecessarily imposing itself on other people's existence as well. You know, it besmirches on the right to quiet enjoyment from the Canadian Criminal Code. I'm gonna go with Book of the Dead. These are all good, but Book of the Dead is the most fun, I think. So I guess I can understand being that petty. But dude, if I ever start an Isaac episode and I'm like, this guy, this young hooligan in a nice restaurant with above 4.0 out of 5 stars on Yelp had the audacity to wear a baseball hat, please unsubscribe immediately. Now the whistling thing, I'm willing to get in an argument over. I am. I will never... There are two reasons. One is I'm a coward. The other one is, you know, I would rather store things in the old memory banks to complain about in an Isaac episode later than confront somebody in public and be like, hey buddy, stop whistling. Because if you confront them over it, all of a sudden, you're the jerk. If you just keep your mouth shut, you get to maintain that moral high ground without actually having to put your own neck on the line, which is where I want to be. That being said, I will fight you on that one. I'm being real. If you whistle in public, I guess I don't mind if you're whistling in public. I just hope that when you do it, you're not like, I'm brightening everybody else's day with my whistling. You're not. There's only one person who can brighten everybody's day with some, you know, unprompted musical interluding, and that's the one and only Yodel Kid. If I ever go into a Walmart, it's gonna be like when Gene Parmesan is on screen in Arrested Development. If that Yodel Kid's there, I'll be, Lord, I don't know what a Yodel Kid, Mesa Ramsey! Nintendo 64! Anyway, that's the end of that bit. I just thought it was, I wasn't mad. You know, I imagine this stuff happens to Larry David all the time, and that's how, like, Curb Your Enthusiasm exists. It's like situations like this happen to him, and then he just quietly endures it, and then later he's like, what if I put up a fuss? And then that's where you get the Anyway. If you've seen the show, you're very familiar with the greatest hits. It's not like it was a big deal. I will go back to the establishment. I will not wear my hat. So they win. It's not, you know, I don't know. At this point in my life, life's not about winning and losing and all those stuff like that, you know? Why did I handle this like this? I don't know, man. Tarot cloth is still really good. Probably could have stalled on some of the stuff, but I don't know. Save credit card for something a little bit more dangerous, maybe. I mean, we've won. Like, don't get too rattled here. I just thought it was funny that it came up after Josh and I were talking about it. And you know what? The next time that I have that I plan to be at a restaurant that has previously referenced the dress code is when Kate and I are going on Valentine's Day, and I figure this time the restaurant on the website said, by the way, here's the dress code. And I was like, is that, in my head I was like, that's probably just like a suggestion, right? And turns out, you know, if they're anal enough to put it on the website, probably not just a suggestion. They're entitled to run their business, at least in this context, like any way they see fit. I will continue. Here's the thing. I guess it's like I'll continue to go there, but they're lucky the food is really good. Because if the food sucked, I would, or if it was just decent, I definitely would not be going back. Way to stick to your principles. Well, in the end, the other thing is, not everything has to be a principled, you know, life or death fight. It is just a baseball hat at the end of the day. Honk. That's not really what I want. What I really, really, really want is Zigga Zigga Ah. If you want my future, gotta get my past. It's like diametrically opposed to the Backstreet Boys' As Long As You Love Me. Spice Girls, you gotta internalize all the baggage that they may or may not have. And all the rewards, I suppose. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. It came across a little weird for sure. Like, what rewards, NL? I didn't know. I wasn't thinking straight, okay? You gaslighted here. The Backstreet Boys, on the other hand, are like, I don't care who you are, where you're from, what you did, as long as you love me. And the Spice Girls are like, if you want my future, gotta get my past. But I don't remember all the words from the Backstreet Boys. So that's the end of that bit. Dude, 12 minutes deep. We are fighting Mom. We are just like unbelievably set. Now, I don't want to spoil this for you. Dark Matter's okay. We're not going to take anything from here because, I mean, it's a little bit unentertaining, but simultaneously, like, I don't know what any of the items do, so I'm not, you know, it's... anyway. So that's you've now got the full story of my weekend. You know what? Actually, now that I think about it, oh, I'm getting anecdote rich again. I wanted to know your opinion on this situation. Well, you know, we had a nice Saturday. I'm not trying to say that we were roughing it, you know? So we went out for brunch. After Spider-Verse, we did go out for dinner. Not at as nice of a place, a more casual place, but next to us, you know, the only seats available were at the bar. So we ate at the bar, and that's fine. But next to us, there was a middle-aged couple. I say that just to set the stage, not to pass any judgment. They had a drink, and then after that, the man said to the bartender, "Are you any good with wine?" And he said, "Not the best. I'll send over somebody who's better." So he sent over somebody who I guess was a little bit more of a sommelier. I know nothing about wine, by the way, so this is why I'm asking. He was like, "Hey, you know, this wine that you've got on your wine list, can we sample it?" And then they were like, "Sure." And they, you know, popped it open and gave him a little sample. And they're like, "I don't really like that. Do you have anything that's similar but with a lower alcohol content?" And she came back with 2 more bottles of wine. They sampled both of those. And then he said, "Well, I like these, but I really wanted like a Pinot Grigio like that first one, just with a lower alcohol percentage." And then she said, "Unfortunately, these are our lowest, or the one you sampled was our lowest alcohol percentage Pinot Grigio. And now I gotta, you know, I've got other lower alcohol percentage wines if you want to try those." And he said, "Sure." And then she came back with 2 more bottles, and they sampled both of those. And then he was like, "These are nice, but you know what? I think we'll take 2 glasses of the first wine that you had us sample." And she said, "Very good, sir." And in my head, I said, "Ma'am, don't be, you know, what's the word I'm trying to come at here? Don't be so deferential to this gentleman right here. I'll admit, I don't really know wine etiquette. Here's the extent of my wine etiquette. On the rare occasion that we order wine for a special occasion, I or my wife will sample it, and I'll go, that's good." And then they leave the bottle of wine at the table. I don't have a wine palate to begin with, so it's just, for me, and anybody else who's kind of like a pretend adult like I am, or making it up as they go along, is probably in the same boat. When you order, you know, like a soda at a restaurant, they're like, "Here's your Diet Coke." When you order a wine, you go through one extra step where, you know, somebody comes over and pours you a glass, and then you swirl it around and sniff it, and then you drink it, and your brain goes, "Yep, that's wine, all right." And then you go, "Oh, it's good. Yeah, we'll take it." I have never asked for seconds. Now, that's not for me, or a second opinion, I should say. That's not for me to say that I disbelieve in wine snobbery. I believe in it in a big way. You know, for a while, I was a beer snob, and people would be like, "All beer tastes the same." And I'm like, "You are insane." But it takes a while to get there. But there's gotta be an upper limit. Unless you're spending, like, I don't even know, hundreds and hundreds on a bottle of wine. It seems socially, like, very unacceptable to take. I'm not even worried about the breakage from the restaurant. You know, like he probably got what amounts to 1 free glass of wine over all of the samples. Who cares? You know, the restaurant's making a killing on the margins here. But he monopolized the server's time for like 8 or 9 minutes just to get the perfect glass of wine that he's gonna drink in like under 10 minutes for sure. So I pose the question to you. How many samples is too many samples, if there is an upper limit? And then secondarily, what do you need to tip in a situation like that? I don't want to get in a conversation about tipping culture. You know, I understand the problems with it as well. But all I'm saying is if I'm tipping 15-20 and this dude's tipping 15-20, we're going to have a conversation. I'm not saying I'm going to tip less. I'm just saying he should be tipping more. There's a whole machismo thing with tipping, and you get the idea. I think if I really hated a wine, I could understand it. Wine's just weird in general too. I don't get it. Like, I mean, I guess I get it, but all other adult beverages, you cannot do what you can do with wine. I guess I have in very, very specialized locations, I have had servers offer to bring like a sample of one or more kinds of beer just to, you know, see which one actually, you know, tickles your fancy. Maybe it's just that I haven't been to classy establishments, you know, the kinds that... I should have used credit card there. The kinds that incentivize you to take off your baseball hat when you go in. But I've never been to, like, you know, a whiskey bar and had... I'd be like, can I try a sample of, you know, a 22-year-old scotch, please? They're like, well, yeah, you can have a... You can sample it for, you know, $19 a glass, and then decide if you want to get a second one. But wine's got all this gravitas associated. I was thinking about, again, I got nothing against wine whatsoever, but it is amazing that, like, it's such an ingratiated part of, like, haute cuisine and, like, fancy dining. Even, like, you know, we go out to semi-fancy places now and then, and there'll be, like, you know, sometimes there's, like, a course menu where it's, like, 3 courses. The course menu might be, like, you know, $30 per person for a starter and a main course and a dessert. But then it's like, hey, if you want a wine pairing that goes with each of these courses, that takes it up to, like, $70 or $80 a person. I'm not saying it's a bad investment if that's something that, I mean, it's a terrible investment, but I'm not saying it's a bad way to spend your money if it's what you're interested in. But simultaneously, sometimes it's like, you know, your entree is like a choice of like, you know, braised lamb shank or the Nando Eggenburger. And I'm like, come on. You can trick the other people, but you can't trick me. There's no wine where people are like, this goes with a croque monsieur, okay? I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. Show me where in the sommelier handbook it's like, oh, you gotta get a Shiraz or a, you know, a Malbec that goes with a toasted grilled cheese sandwich with a fried egg on top. I don't believe it. So what I'm saying is, although I've said I've respected wine over and over, it's all a crock, dude. It's all snake oil and smoke and mirrors. I mean, everybody, I think. Non-snobs, and I count myself here for wine for sure, they want to believe that snobs, you know, it's all, hold on, I really thought that might be Beelzebub. I will use data miner once, because this video is bereft of any other entertainment. Our rate of fire was halved, and our range went slightly up. Fantastic. Anyway, what I was going to say is they want to believe that, you know, snobs are making it all up, you know? That they don't know what they're talking about. They, you know, they just have the power of suggestion and persuasion on their side. To some extent, I mean, I did, you know, in that documentary I was talking about, Sour Grapes, which I really do recommend. It's very interesting. Kind of like if you like true crime stuff, but aren't necessarily particular about it being about murder, you can watch Sour Grapes, which is much more about, like, basically a white-collar crime. But anyway, you know, there's people there that they're trying to figure out if the wine that they bought for, like, $75,000 is fake or if it's real. And, you know, half the people are like, oh, this is beautiful. There's no way this is fake. And then one guy tries it and is like, oh, it tastes like toilet water. And you're like, okay, where do I side here? Do I think the dude is saying it tastes like toilet water to seem like more of an authority? Or do you think he's more likely to be correct? And anyway, you get the idea. But, you know, one thing gives me pause there, and it's a strange context for this to come from. But you ever see that Mythbusters episode where they filter vodka through, like, a Brita water filter over and over to purify it? And then they taste it, and they're like, I don't really, I mean, maybe this one's, like, a little smoother. And then they bring in a vodka aficionado, like an actual vodka taster, and have him blind taste test, like, filtered, like, cheap vodka, and then cheap vodka filtered, like, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, etc., and then expensive vodka, and he ranks them all based on the exact correct order of their filtrations. That was incredible. So I think there's got to be something to it, you know? And maybe there's got to be way more than something to it. Maybe some of the people are big old phonies and they're pretending to taste certain things, and some of the people are legit, or maybe they're not even big old phonies. Maybe they're just novices and they're not quite there yet. But it's very interesting. Even as much as craft beer has taken off, you see it sometimes, but it's much less common. I'm opening it, dude. To have somebody, you know, if you could be like, hey, what beer pairs nicely with this fish? Maybe it's also like a North American thing. You know, up until recently, until I was like 20, I'm pretty sure that, I mean, it's kind of a biased sample because I was below the legal drinking age anyway, but I'm saying, like, you know, I never saw an adult drink something that wasn't like a macro brew ale or lager. Now everybody's like, you know, dads have gone from drinking Coors Light to like Dogfish Head 90-minute IPAs and oatmeal stouts and stuff like that. And it's a huge improvement. Taste-wise. I'm not trying to be snobby about it, but I'm just saying. Wine's different. I don't know. You ever hear the... So people, they talk sometimes about how, like, you know, is wine good? The jury's out. Doctors can't decide. Is alcohol good for you, like a little alcohol, or is it bad for you? There's always this study that comes up regarding wine. I only found out recently. I think I might have mentioned it in an earlier episode, but we're coming to the end of this one very quickly, unfortunately. But where it was like people who consume like 1 alcoholic drink per day on average live longer than people who don't consume any alcohol, people who are like they abstinent from alcohol. And then later on it came out that a significant or statistically significant portion of people who abstain from alcohol altogether are recovering addicts who have already done a substantial amount of damage potentially to their you know, to their internal organs by over imbibing over the course of several years or, you know, probably even decades. It's very interesting. I only ever heard, like, the byline for that study, which is like, you know, newscasters gleefully going like, hey, doctors say drink 1 glass of wine a day to live forever, when actually it's like, hey, yeah, people who drink 1 glass of wine a day tend to live longer than some people who may have already blown out their liver earlier and recovered a little late. Anyway, thanks for watching. Any sommeliers watching this? Probably not. You're too busy researching labels and stuff like that. For now, thanks for watching. Hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. That was a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, hopefully with a little bit of a tougher episode. See you then. Hey-hoo!